Overwhelmed by watercolour pencils, then Derwent Inktense pencils may just be the thing for you. And while Derwent Inktense pencils are great, you might not know how to get the best out of them. I'm going to show you some beginner-friendly techniques using just 10 of these pencils. And the good thing is, you can apply these techniques to lots of other different projects. I'm going to give you some tips along the way, but stay to the end for a bonus tip. Now let's get on with it. I'm going to swatch out the colours that we're going to be using today. I'll start first of all with the lemon colour, and this one is just called lemon. It's a really useful colour in any palette. Lemon, and the number in case you need it is 0110. And then the next one we'll have, now I think this is a little bit of your yellow ochre colour, which I think nearly every palette needs, and that is tan. The number for tan is 1720. We'll move on to an orange now. This is the burnt orange, and I love this colour. I'm not sure if it's one of their newer ones. Let me know if you know. Burnt orange 0260, and that is beautiful. We'll stay in our red zone. We'll put down the crimson, so that will be our red for today. Crimson 0530, one of the primaries, so you can mix some lovely oranges with that and the yellow. Our light green is going to be, strangely enough, the apple green. Who'd have thought it? We're drawing an apple. Now this one you will find in a lot of the Derwent pencil or Inktense pencil sets. Got apple green 1400. Another very interesting, important green to probably have on your palette is a leaf green. Very useful colour. Again, it's one that appears, I believe, in quite a few of the sets. Leaf green 1600. Final green is, this one is one of the new ones, and that's olivine. And it really does look like those olives that you see in the supermarket. Yeah, we'll use that for our other green. Let's move on to the browns. So I picked, and I weren't quite sure which ones to pick, but I ended up going for a natural brown, as it's not too dark, it's not too, well, it just seemed perfect, and that's 1907. And then of course we do need a dark brown, so I chose sepia ink, and that's sepia ink 2010. Finally, deep indigo. Now, deep indigo is probably my favourite Inktense pencil, and one that I can't be without. It appears in nearly all my pencil cases, and it's lovely just to draw with if you just want to draw and sketch with a pencil, and obviously you can activate it. I'm going to show you now a couple of interesting mixes just before we get into doing the actual drawing. I said earlier that obviously yellow is great mixed with the crimson. Yellow and the blue in this set is the indigo, so that should give us some type of green. And you're better off just mixing your own dark. I am going to use the deep indigo mixed with the sepia ink to get my dark. If you do want to get a pink, say you are drawing a pink apple, you might want to get the white as well. But I won't be using it today, but I'll just show you in case you're interested. So this is a crimson, and I shall draw next to that. I have got the antique white here. I'm just going to pop that on top. So we should get a pink. You can alter some of your greens. If we've got the apple green, and then we mix it with the blue, we can darken the apple green. And of course you could do apple green again, but instead of darkening it with the deep indigo, you could use the lemon, and that will make it into another type of green, a lighter green. And of course you could do that with all the greens. The tan and the indigo might make a nice shadow colour. Well, a mauvey colour would work well for shadows sometimes, so deep indigo and the crimson will give us a nice shadow colour. And let's see what type of orange we get. That colour would be very useful for doing Caucasian skins. You might want a little bit of blue in there. Got the lemon and indigo. Obviously we should get a nice green colour. And there it is. The crimson and the white will give us a pink. Then we've got our dark colour here. Now look how dark that is. And that's so much more interesting than using black. Apple green and dark indigo should give us a nice dark green, which it does. Apple green and lemon should give us a nice zingy green. I mean, that really is very, very bright. I like that. These were the two shadow colours that could be useful for our drawing, and that's the tan, which I think is a bit like a yellow ochre, and the deep indigo. So let's have a look. And I'm just going to wipe a little bit of the pigment off, and then now you see that could be a lovely shadow colour. And if we take it the other way into the blue, that would work really well. So we've got the real purple going this way, and then I would say that's more of a mauve going that way. I'll just quickly activate these ones for you so you can see what they're like when they're activated, because of course that is the beauty of these pencils. They become something very, very intense, like the name, and very wonderful. I think a lot of people don't like watercolour pencils, or struggle with them perhaps more than not liking them, as they can be very wishy-washy, and that certainly isn't something you're going to get with these pencils. I mean, they are so intense and so beautiful. And look at that leaf green, isn't it wonderful? I really like this burnt orange. I think it's really great. As is this olivine, a really useful colour. And take a look at this natural brown, perfect for so many natural subjects. We've got sepia ink, which is bordering on a black, slightly warmer. And then your deep indigo, which is that pencil which is so useful and so lovely just to draw with in itself with nothing else. Let's have a look at the equipment that you're going to need today. Now, the first thing is the paper. The paper is the most important thing. This isn't strictly a watercolour paper, but it is smooth. You want ideally something with a bit of weight in it, not too thin, not too glossy, not with a lot of texture on it either. So your ideal is something like a watercolour paper. This is the Etcher sketchbook. I'm not sure whether I'll use this one. As you can see, it's quite thin, so it does see through it. So I think we'll use this one today. And then the next thing, of course, is your brush. I'm going to be using, because I love these, the waterbrush from Derwent. And it's got the thick nib on it. And I think it is really important to get one that's got a point on it, because then you can get all those lovely details. You can activate in all the nooks and crannies of your drawing. And this one is great because of the push button, and it releases the water. I'm not sure if you can see that on my hand. I like them, but you are more than welcome, obviously, to use whatever you have to hand. There is nothing wrong at all with just using a good old plain brush and a pot of water. The next thing you're going to need with your brush is something to wipe it on. It's really, really important that you keep the nib clean so you don't get any unexpected mixes, and you could use something like a wristband or even just an old bit of rag that you can wash every so often, bung it in the washing machine, in the sink. So I'll probably just use a paper towel today. Of course, you're going to also need a selection of Inktense pencils, and these are the 10 that I'm going to be using. You don't have to use these 10, use whatever you've got, just decide whichever colours you want to use and experiment and play with them, because that's half of the fun. If you do want to use these 10, I'm going to link them below in the description. Where it says more, you just click on that and there will be a list with a link to each colour, and you are more than welcome. Well, I hope you find it useful if you do want to use them. And it's a great way of supporting this channel as well, because every time someone clicks on one of those links, I get a very tiny percentage, no extra cost to you, and it really helps me to make more videos. So thank you in advance. Even if you buy one pencil, that is a great help. Our subject for today is the humble apple. Our garden at the minute is full of these, and I like this one because it's not perfect. Well, it's lower down here and it's a very interesting shape. And you can just buy an apple that you like the look of, and we're going to use that for our subject today. A couple of other things that you might need, and that is a good old-fashioned sharpener. This is just a bog standard. I'm not even going to be using the one that gives me the extra long points on it. A razor, that might be useful, but you probably won't need it. But just get any old eraser will do. If you are using one of these, you're going to need a receptacle for your shavings. And one last thing, of course, to do your outline, your initial outline of the apple, I'm going to use one of these graphite aquarelle Faber-Castell pencils. I've got a 2B, HB 2B, something like that would work really well. I like using these because the outline will disappear into your work, so you won't get that harsh line on the outside, which doesn't help if you're going to go for that realism look. If you don't have a water-soluble graphite pencil, just use one of your Inktense pencils. But I would use one of the lighter ones, something perhaps like the lemon, failing that maybe one of the greens. Just press really lightly, just to give you a little bit of an outline. But if you do have one of these graphite pencils, these water-soluble graphite pencils, then they will be ideal. Right, the first thing we're going to do is draw an outline of our apple, and I'm going to do, I think I might do 2 or 3 outlines, just so that we can just see some different examples. I think I might use a different angle for this one, so we've got a slightly different pattern. As you can see, drawing apples is a great practice in doing circles, different angles, and yeah, it's not as easy as it looks, and I really struggled today, I've got to say. Right, the first thing we're going to do is to add our base layer. So for that, I think I'll mainly be using the lemon. However, I will be using some of the crimson, a little bit of the burnt orange, perhaps also some of the apple, and even some of the tan. The main colours for my apple will be these 5. So I'm going to start with the lemon first of all, and we'll start on this one up here. And it's really important that you don't press too hard. You just want a light layer to cover the apple. And I don't want to see anyone going like this or like that. You want to be following the shape of the apple. It is a sphere. Follow it like the contour suggests. And do nice, light, circular actions. Nothing too hard, don't press hard. And on this apple, I've decided I'm going to use pretty much a base of lemon all over it. The beauty with these pencils as well is that when we activate the colour, we can move it all around and get it right up to the edges. The second apple, we're going to just, again, use quite a bit of the lemon on it, but I'm also going to use some of the other colours. Now, if you've got a strong highlight, remember to leave those white. You can always drag a little bit of colour into those areas, but it's very hard to take it out completely. Now we're going to go back to the second apple, and I'm going to put some of the crimson on here, just in certain areas. Again, just doing circular motion. And actually, I'm not thinking about it too much. And when I activate it, I think I'm going to do more of the work there. I'm going to use some of this tan now and put some of that on this side. And in fact, I'm going to put a bit of tan on the stem as well. And on the third one, I'm going to have some of this tan colour around here. And while I'm getting this base layer on, I am going to put a bit of the texture on, because it's got like a, I don't know if you can see, like a, not a honeycomb, but that type of pattern, diamondy pattern going on. So I'm just suggesting some type of texture or pattern down here, not too much. And then we'll have a bit of the tan colour over here. Now you can spend a lot longer putting the first base layer down on yours. And you don't have to be a slave, again, to your subject. You don't have to be a slave to the actual subject. You can make bits up. Remember, you're in charge of your own artwork and no one else need know about it. I'm certainly not going to tell anyone that that wasn't really there. Don't worry about it not being perfect at all, because nothing in nature is perfect. And I guess that's what makes things look a bit more real sometimes, is that they're not done too carefully. Now, like we did when we were swatching the colours out, I'm going to mix a bit of the lemon yellow on top of this apple green as well. Again, I don't know if it looks like on camera I'm pressing hard, but I really am not. So now we're going to get to the exciting bit, and that's activating them. So for this bit, you're going to need your brush, and you're going to need something to wipe your brush on to keep it nice and clean. So we'll do the top apple first, which is the lovely yellow one. Now, obviously I did a very strong outline on mine, so I'm going to try and get that now to dissolve a bit more into the work. So the yellow one is more of an underpainting, so hopefully some of that colour is going to come through. Now we've got a lot more colours on this one, so I am going to be mixing on the page. So tip number one is to start from the light areas and move to your darker areas. And also to lift pigment and to move it across, because you can do that. Don't over wet areas as well. Soften any lines as well while they're damp, because once they've dried it will be very hard to move anything. Really important to make sure that your paper is dry before you add any further layers. A good way of doing that is just to simply feel the back of it, and if it's cool, that would suggest that it might still be damp. This is quite thick paper, so it's probably not going to feel damp anyway, but yeah, it's a good way of recognising if it is damp, because you don't want to work on damp paper with these. Well, you do actually if you want that effect, but we are not going for that effect at the minute. So this is the underpainting one. This one I'm just going to do one more layer on, and this one I think I'm going to do 2 extra layers on, so we'll see where we get. So the next stage is with this underpainting one is to add a bit more detail on. So I'm just going to put my paper clip back on here, and we'll start adding some more detail onto this one. Do try to do different marks when you are drawing. It creates a little bit more of a natural look, because nothing is regular in nature, as I might have mentioned earlier. It's really important to make sure that you give some shadow into that dip where you've got your core, because that really will help add a little bit of realism and dimension to your drawing. Now, before we activate this final layer, I'm going to add some shadow, because shadow will really help your drawing to pop. And the way we're going to add the shadow is, I think we're going to use the tan and the deep indigo. So let's have the shadow going to the side, like so. And I'm going to put a bit more pigment just under it there, because that's where, I think that's called the occlusion shadow. That's the darkest bit, basically. And then on this one, again, let's have the shadow going in a similar direction. Obviously the light's hitting it there, so it's more like a cast shadow perhaps. But it would just give it a little bit of, it would just help wherever the shadow is. It's going to help ground your subject so it's not floating through space. Because we do want to be on the table and then we'll get the deep indigo. Where's the deep indigo? And I'm going to mix a little bit of that into here. We'll take it up to this apple edge. Well, we're going to activate this layer now, and then it's just a case of putting in the darks and the lights. So I don't know why I've just done that. I should have put them in here. Now I've not actually used much of the two greens, the olivine and the leaf green. So probably could have done without those, but we'll see. We'll see where we get to. Remember to build up your layers if you're going for a realistic look to your art. You can keep going back and adding further layers, adjusting colours by adding glazes or adding detail and texture to your drawing. Do remember your drawing is dry though before adding any further layers, or you will get a very intense look, which can sometimes be just what you need. Also, experiment with them and have fun. It's one of the best ways to learn about these pencils, and it's a great shame if they're just sat on a shelf being unused. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's your favourite way to use Inktense pencils, and do you already have a set? And if you're inspired by Inktense or would like more projects relating to Inktense in any of its forms, please do drop a comment below and let me know what you'd like to see, as I want to make plenty more videos using this lovely range, and it would be great to get your ideas. Remember, I have several videos on Derwent Inktense on my channel, so please do go and check those out. Until the next time, take care and I'll see you soon.